Today is Friday, June 27th, 2025. Time is 6:18 p.m. And we got a solid topic for today. One that came up just yesterday. One of the community members made a post including some text threads about a situation that he was dealing with a girl that he approached I think it was a few days back. And he even had audio infield for that approach. Seemed to go pretty well, honestly. And he ran into a roadblock when texting this girl. I won't give too many details away. Those of you in the community, you can read the post and know what I'm talking about. But basically, he sent over a voice note where he was being a bit suggestive and saying, "Yeah, I can't wait to flirt," or something along those lines, right? Looking forward to when I take you out and we can flirt and cuddle or something like that. And he got a response which was something along the lines of, "We can hold off on the cuddling. We're still strangers. I don't know you." Something like that, right? Essentially, just like the way I phrased it when I replied to him was she like metaphorically crossed her arms. All right, so we're going to talk about that, talk about the topic that sprung out of that. So, if you don't know who I am, my name is Ephraim. Nice to meet you. A couple years back, my dating life sucked. I had trouble lining up any dates for myself. I grew up as a guy who did not have much action at all when it comes to girls. And then I came across a guy named Christian back in 2023. I paid him to teach me how to walk over to girls in public. We call it daytime cold approach. And since then, I pretty much became a wizard. I repped the skill out 100 million times and got a lot better at it now. I'm very effective at lining myself up with dates. So that's what I do on this channel is I document my journey and what I'm learning along the way. And I hope guys as well who are just starting out to know what to expect and to pretty much provide a map for you to make this whole process a little bit less painful. All right, so the topic, if she likes you, she'll make it easy for you. All right, so this is something that I texted myself. We'll go paragraph by paragraph and I'll give more context on each. So I said, something I notice is guys tend to see girls as someone you have to unlock or diffuse piece by piece. They encounter a text that implies disinterest and they think, oh, this is just a shit test. What is a good shit test reply? All right, so what I'm getting at here is this used to be me as well. All right, this certainly used to be me. Is I was viewing dating and girls in general as like, all right, I'm starting off in the defensive position. It's likely that none of them are going to make it easy for me. I have to provide a certain series of game events and sequences and techniques that I need to apply over time to get this girl from seeing me as like a stranger, a guy that she's not interested in, to all of a sudden building her interest, and then we get her out on the date and she likes me a little more. Oh, what up, Ish? Good to see you, baby. We got another person, Omnishoe, in the chat. What's going on? Throw a like on the vid for me, please. That's my only ask. So anyways, so yeah, that's how I used to see it as well. I was starting out with each girl. I was starting out in my mind from like a defensive position, from like, all right, she probably isn't going to like me right off of the bat, so I need to more or less prove myself to her by passing the shit tests and by replying in a witty manner, etc. Now, I've since shifted my perspective a ton, and the reason is I've approached so many girls and got so many different reactions, different immediate reactions. Some girls like me right off the bat. Some girls take a bit of time to warm up to me. Sometimes that happens during the conversation. Sometimes that happens during the date. And plenty of girls have not been interested flat out. So through this large body of work, I've noticed different trends if we were to look at the data overall. And what I've noticed, we're going to be going through a lot of this in this live stream, but generally what I've noticed is that if if a girl, or I guess I should rephrase, when I'm on a date with a girl and it's going really well, that tends to also mean that the approach itself went really well. That doesn't mean that the approach was perfect, and that's in fact what I cover on the next paragraph that we're going to get into. But that just means that I could basically from the jump, we would classify her as an on girl. And so an on girl means that you click from the very start, that there's not a lot of tension, that there's not a lot of stuff you need to overcome to get her out onto a date, yeah, and to have a great time. In fact, she tends to make it easier for you because, and here's the key, because she already likes you. So I think like that's a big distinction point that we can make, is probably how a lot of you guys are viewing this, just like I used to, is that she doesn't already like me and I need to do things that will eventually get her to like me, or say things in the right way or the right sequence that will get her to like me. Versus what I learned when I started approaching and I had that same mentality is I started coming across girls that I didn't need to do anything. They already liked me. All I needed to do was go up confidently and present myself effectively. Once I was able to do that consistently, I can go over, I could stop her well, I can engage in conversation well. And we're, getting past the 30-second mark essentially in these approaches. Once I consistently started doing that, then what I started to notice is I got a whole bunch of contact details from girls that I thought were interested in me that never ended up replying or going anywhere. I got plenty of girls that said no right off the bat, weren't interested, and kept it walking. And then I also had quite a few experiences where in the conversation we hit it off immediately. I noticed that she was interested from the start. It was very easy to set up a date with her, etc., etc. All right, so this is the main mindset shift that I invite you to consider, because this is what I went through in my actual life. So it went from, and I'll talk about this, let's go into the next paragraph actually. So next paragraph I say, in my experience, the dates that go the best went great from the very first interaction. That doesn't mean that the approach was perfect, but it does mean that at some point in the conversation, I realized that this girl is truly interested in me. All right, so I started off that. I said, the dates that go the best typically went great from the very first interaction, from the very first approach. And then I made sure to clarify that doesn't mean the approach was perfect. So I've had plenty of dates that I lined up where I was fumbling through the conversation, where I was there's a lot of times, I've got this on camera for you boys plenty, where I was actually fumbling through the compliment when I was going, excuse me, hi, excuse me, and I would like awkwardly laugh at different places, right? So that doesn't mean that the approach was pitch perfect, that I did everything well mechanically, or that it was even buttery smooth. Yeah, it doesn't mean that the approach itself and the content, what we were talking about, was super smooth. It doesn't mean that there were no what we would call awkward points in the conversation. But it does mean that she was replying to me overall in a very, very positive, interested kind of a way. So to bring it back to the person that generated this topic. So that guy in the group, when he made this post and he included the context that this was the girl that he had an audio infield from a few days ago, I went back and I listened to it and I remembered back to how that conversation went, that audio infield. And although he sounded really, really good during that conversation, I didn't necessarily hear anything that led me to believe that the girl was super interested in him already, or that she couldn't wait to go on a date with him, or that she was like really, really interested in going on a date with him, or anything even close to that. So the way that he ended up, the conversation was pretty nice. I think it lasted for two or so minutes when I listened, but I noticed towards the end there was sort of an awkward pause, and then he goes, well, anyways, I'll let you get back to whatever you're doing, I forget, but I want to take you out. And then she said something along the lines of, well, I'll have to see if I have time for a date, or something like that, right? And so just the wording, not even getting into how she said it or the cadence at which she was replying to him, but just the wording itself. Yeah, well, I'll have to see if I have time for a date. Just the wording, the word choice implies that she wasn't necessarily already very interested in him up until that point at the very least. So that doesn't mean that the date's not going to happen or that it's not going to go incredible. But from the context that we have, the actual context that we have, we can infer that she's not super interested in him off the bat. All right. And I'm comparing that to my second paragraph where I said, in my experience, the dates that happen in the first place, and especially the dates that go the best, already went great from the very first interaction. So that doesn't necessarily mean that the mechanics of the approach were perfect, but it does mean that at some point in the conversation, I was starting to pick up on, oh, this girl likes me. I can tell this girl likes me. What are some things that give that away? I mean, eye contact is a big one. Yeah, if she's staring me right back in the eyes and kind of giving me that look, you know what I mean? Hopefully you've been in this space enough. You've learned kind of the look that I'm talking about, right? Not like a disinterested, platonic roll my eyes kind of a look, but like oh, she's actually interested. She's looking at me a certain way. How she's standing in the conversation as well is something you can audit. You don't need to look too far into this, but just giving you some benchmarks is how she's positioned when she's talking to you, right? Is half her body turned away as she's replying to you over her shoulder, or is she like completely squared up with you? A lot of this has to do with how you were able to stop her, but anyways, is she actually squared up with you? Sometimes she'll cross her legs while talking to you, or she'll give you her full attention, right? Versus if she's like kind of glancing down at her phone, right? And then just overall responsiveness in the conversation. That's a huge one. That's probably one of the biggest telltale signs. Yeah, like some anomalies would be girls that are a little shy and not as socially adept as you, we could say, or a girl that's super in a rush and needs to get somewhere but is interested. But for the majority of the girls that the conversation goes really well, they tend to be very engaged in the conversation with me, asking me questions back, answering the questions that I'm asking her in a way that suggests that she actually wants to be talking to me, right? Rather than answering the questions in a way that suggests that she wants to get the fuck out of there. Yeah, which would be more like one-word answers, very monotone answers, kind of brushing you off or not giving you a whole lot to go off of, all right? So, all right, so that's the second paragraph, right? Remember, we're building up to the main topic here, which is if she likes you, she'll make it easy for you, all right? She won't make it difficult for you. So, third paragraph, I put, when I find a girl that actually likes me, she typically makes things really easy for me. So I gave some examples. She offers up her number enthusiastically, sometimes without me even having to ask for it. All right, so once again, we'll pause and we'll make a distinction. There have been so many approaches that I've done where the girl ended up giving me her contact details and never ended up replying to me, or maybe the number wasn't real. That hasn't happened too much, but I'm sure that's happened in the past, right? You send the message and it goes undelivered or goes to the wrong number. But the majority of the times that this has happened, it's been because she didn't respond ever, all right? Now, knowing what I know now, I could audit those approaches and guess with very, very high level accuracy whether or not I would ever get a reply from the girl, whether or not the date would ever actually happen with that girl, based on the conversation and the interaction, and certainly based on how that contact detail exchange goes. So what I mean is, what's very likely for those girls that never replied to me, and if we were to have that footage to go back and audit, we probably would find this. What's very likely is that girl was just very conflict avoidant and didn't want to, maybe she was being nice to me, didn't want to make me feel kind of let down or make me feel rejected, or maybe she just genuinely didn't know how I would react to her not accepting my invitation. And so out of fear or out of just path of least resistance, she decided, okay, I'm just going to give this guy my phone number and scurry out of here, and he'll never see me again. I'll never see him again. So bullet dodged, right? If she was a girl who was like, I don't know how this guy's going to react, probably she's had something similar happen in the past, but maybe the guy got super defensive after she said no. So these are just examples that I'm using of girls that never replied to me, and we can kind of ask, I wonder why that is. These are probably the top common reasons why I never got a reply, is because if we break it all the way down, it's because at some level or another, she wasn't interested in the first place and was just trying to keep my ego intact, or was just trying to mitigate the risk of me kind of blowing up and going, oh, well, you don't look good anyways, right? Something I'd never do, but she doesn't know that, right? This is her first time meeting me. So that was the first example I used. So that was the delineation I was making, right? Now, we compare that to audio infields or infields on my channel that you can go and audit and listen to how we're exchanging contact details. Well, oftentimes when I actually end up going on a date with some of these girls, that girl was more than happy to give me her number. Yeah, so sometimes she'll even offer it up, right? She'll even go, yeah, take my number down here, take my number down, or we should exchange contact details, we should exchange numbers before I even mention it, right? Oftentimes that's because I'm already lining up a date. So the next logical thing to do if you're going to go on a date is to exchange contact details, but you get it, right? She's almost offering her contact details up without me even having to ask. All right, so yeah, that was the first example. I just want to make a quick distinction that just because she suggests that you exchange contact details doesn't necessarily mean that she's super interested. It could mean that she's just trying to help you save face, right? That's a very easy way to get out of the conversation. If the girl doesn't want to keep talking to you and also doesn't want to risk you, turning mean, she could just go, yeah, here, just take my number down. Yeah, just text me, and then she'll get out of there, right? Versus a girl that's like more than happy. So once again, let's compare what I'm talking about to that, what sparked today's live stream topic, which is that community member's post where she said something along the lines of, yeah, well, you can have my number or something like that, right? She said, yeah, I can give you my number. And then she said to the date was something along the lines of, yeah, we'll have to see if I have time or something like that, right? So that's already indicating that she's not super interested right off the bat. She's kind of shrugging you off as like, yeah, well, if I have time, maybe little guy, maybe I'll go on a date with you if I can find time. A girl that wants to go on a date with you is not going to respond to you in that manner, right? So that's the next thing I said here when I was listing examples. So we already talked about how she's offering up her number. And then the next thing I said is she finds time in her schedule promptly. So for me, promptly honestly usually means during that initial conversation. So when I talk about a girl finding time in her schedule for our date promptly, what I'm used to is she's deciding on the spot. So I tell her I want to take her out. We start talking about when we're free, and she's already pinpointing days that'll work on her end. She's already saying, yeah, I got drinks with the girls Friday evening, but then after that, I don't have plans. Or, yeah, I've got this party that I'm going to on Saturday night, but maybe before then, or actually Sunday might be good. And she's like giving me information about her schedule versus just kind of brushing it off and going, yeah, I'll see if I have time, right? That's very broad. That's a very broad answer. And that's an answer that definitely suggests she could really care less whether or not this date ever happens, right? And so that's, to reel it back into what we're talking about and what I discuss on this channel, what I document. What we're trying to do when we're going over and doing these approaches and improving as we go, we're trying to eventually, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, I have more to talk about, but we're trying to filter out the girls that could care less and are not interested in me or in you to some capacity. And we're trying to filter for the girls that right off the bat there's chemistry, or very early on there's chemistry. They're actually making an effort to want to see you as well by offering up their schedule, by offering up their number, or sometimes Instagram. I try to shy away from Instagram as much as possible, but they're showing some level of investment in like, yeah, I want to see you again. So remember how I started off the live stream by saying I used to think that all of these interactions that I was having with girls before cold approach was like, all right, she's not going to like me right off the bat because blank, right? And my answers was because I'm not tall enough, because I'm not strong enough, because I'm not rich enough. So she's not going to like me off of the bat. So I need to do these things, say these certain sequences in order to get her to like me, to get on her good side, because I just wasn't genetically blessed enough, blah, blah, blah. That's what I used to think. And now through cold approach, as the same guy who used to think that with the same physical attributes, who used to think that, now I'm going, oh, that's not the case at all. It's simply that there's a lot of girls that just don't like me. There's a lot of girls that just do like me. And my job through cold approach is simply to filter for the ones that do and not waste my time on the ones that don't. Just filter for the ones that do. Yeah, just approach enough girls to where I find one or two or three or however many you're approaching, right? Where you find a bunch that actually like you, and then you can start your vetting process, yeah, when it comes to dating. All right, continuing. The next example I said was she reciprocates my flirting during the date. She's very engaged during the date. All right, so that's a huge one. So if you've gotten a girl out on a date, she shows up and you're sitting down at your bar at a booth or whatever, and you order your drinks and you're sipping on your drinks. If you've gotten to this point, then you certainly should have a very good idea of whether or not this girl is actually interested in you. So you can audit how the text thread, the general undertones of the text thread itself, and you can go how easy or how difficult was it to get this girl out on this date. You can audit the approach and how that went, and you can think, okay, how genuinely interested did she seem when I was first speaking to her, when I was first introducing myself to her. But then if you get to the point where you're on a date with the girl, I mean, if you don't already know up until that point, which you certainly should by then, you'll find out very quickly whether or not she's actually interested in you. So I genuinely can't remember. Oh, you know what? I was going to say I can't remember a date where a girl has been not interested in me, but I can. This is when I was in Cyprus. You can go back to the video. I almost pulled an Instagram model. This is the highest level of disinterest that I felt on a date, and even this wasn't too severe. But I remember this girl had a huge following, like 50,000 followers on Instagram, and I approached her when I was out in Cyprus. I took her on this date. I remember thinking, this girl's way out of my league. Whoa, this girl's, she's a German actress and shit. She's on TV, blah blah blah. So I thought I was way in over my head. You could, once again, you could audit our text thread and you could see that she was slightly difficult to get out on a date, right? So she wasn't too difficult, but I think it took like 2 or 3 times of reaching out before we actually ended up going out. But then on the date itself, we were sitting across from each other. I remember I took her to this fancy restaurant because I thought I was in over my head. I gotta perform for this girl, make her think I'm better than I actually am. So I took her to this fancy restaurant. And, she was reciprocating conversation, but not nearly as much as I'm used to. She had glanced down at her phone a few times for like 2 minutes at a time because I slightly let that go because I knew that her work was attached to her social media and shit, right? She has a big following. But still, I didn't like the fact that she was doing that at the dinner table with me. And she wasn't necessarily reciprocating the flirting. Now that's happened to me on plenty of dates, right? Where I'm trying to turn up the tension a bit and the girl isn't reciprocating my flirtatious advances. That's happened to me on plenty of dates. But all this to say, these are very telltale signs of whether or not the girl's actually interested in you. If you haven't found out by the time you're on the date with her, that'll be a very quick wake-up call for you, right? Is how engaged is she in the conversation, or is she more interested in what she's ordering on the menu and how much it costs, right? And how cool her drink is? Is she more worried about like taking pictures of her drink for her Instagram story? Girls that I go on dates with, they don't do any of that shit. Yeah, they rarely ever, the only time they're on their phone is when I go to use the bathroom and I come back and then they put their phone away as soon as I get back to the table or back to the bar, right? They're not on their phone, they're not texting their friends, they're not on their Instagram, they're not doing any of that. So if they're doing anything like that, that's a very telltale sign this girl is not interested in me. Yeah, maybe she's using me to get free drinks or free food or free attention or whatever, but she's not actually romantically interested, all right? Now, the next paragraph I say, I'll have to read this as I go. I don't remember exactly what I said here, but I put, so it's not that each girl is some difficult person who you need to smooth talk in order to get on her good side. If that sounds like the girls that you're texting or dating, it's likely that you're simply talking to girls that aren't actually interested in you. So is that starting to make sense? It's like the girls that I'm taking out on dates are girls that I've already filtered out or filtered in those cases and gone, oh yeah, I could tell based on our conversation initially, based on how easy it was to get this date with her, based on whatever text back and forth we've had so far, I can deduce whether or not this girl is actually interested. So if I'm seeing a girl as, all right, she already is kind of like, she's already metaphorically crossed her arms at me, right? She's already kind of being a little difficult or a little distant or a little disinterested. If any of those if any of those factors are true, then I quickly filter that girl out and stop putting any of my effort there, right? I'll just stop replying over text. These days, I just don't take those girls' phone numbers down anyways, right? It's like I would rather just walk away and not ever talk to her again than find out in 3 days over text whether or not she's actually interested because she stopped replying to me, blah, 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 right? You can usually very easily filter this on the front end. I say easily, obviously I've done plenty of approaches and I've gotten myself to this point, but you put the reps in and very easily you'll learn to filter this kind of stuff out, okay? So, yeah, I say if that sounds like any of the girls that you're talking to, texting, dating, right? If they're difficult, or if you're kind of seeing them as like, all right, she's difficult, I need to get on her good side, I need to show her how invested I am, show her how interested I am in her, show her. If you're feeling the need to like prove yourself or show things to her, kind of like I did with that date in Cyprus with the Instagram model, right? If I'm in that position, certainly in hindsight, I can look back and go, all right, I know what's going on, right? I know that I feel less than. I know that I don't think she's interested in me. I know that she's making it difficult. I don't feel that confident around her. And so this is simply a girl that is just not interested, right? And then I'll just move on, okay? So, yeah, continuing on, I say, it sounds like you're just talking to girls that are not interested in you. You found the girls that liked you just enough to politely reward you with their phone number, but not enough to make it easy for you. All right. So this one's pretty important in my opinion. All right. So oftentimes the girls that are not reciprocating much on dates or not giving you much over text after you meet them or not giving you much during that initial conversation, oftentimes if you end up taking down their phone number, that's a girl that just liked the approach just enough to reward you and go, good boy for doing this approach and being bold and getting out of your comfort zone and doing something that scared you. Here's my phone number as a reward. And that's how she's seeing it. Not actually like, I hope this guy texts me. I hope this guy takes me out. I hope we go have a great time. So it's very likely that if you're getting any responses like that, then you didn't actually set up a date for yourself. Instead, bravo to you for going in for what you were scared of and performing and doing something that scared you, right? Getting over a fear, bravo. But, look, now we're going to the coaching aspect where I'm trying to help you improve in this area. That just means that she was rewarding your noble efforts. Yeah, that just means she went, wow, that was brave of you. Here's my phone number. All right, bye. Never going to see you again. Peace. Don't even text me, is essentially what she's saying, yeah? So that if you're running into that roadblock, right, where it's like, all right, I feel like the approaches are going well, I'm getting phone numbers, but they're not actually converting. They're not materializing into dates, or the dates that I'm going on, they don't actually seem that interested on the date. It's kind of like they came out here because they didn't have anything else to do on a Saturday night. If that's the case, then what's likely is that you found girls that just liked you enough to say, all right, here's my number, but you haven't yet found the girls that like you enough to just make it easy for you. Right? Because there are girls in this world right now that like you in your current state right now. I can't tell you how hot or how not hot they are. That's based on you and how the work that you've put into yourself, right? But there is some creature on this earth that would like you enough in your current state to make it easy for you. So that's proof that it's not about finding a bunch of girls that just like are kind of impartial towards you and trying to win them over. It's rather about filtering for the girls that already like you as is, would already want to go on a date with you as is without you having to try to change anything about yourself, without you trying to pass a shit test. You get where I'm coming from, right? And instead are just thinking, I like this guy already. I like Ephraim as he is, so I'm just going to make this a lot easy for him because I want to go on the date, right? That's a great way to position it. If you want to do something, then you tend to lower the barrier to do it, right? Versus if you don't want to do something, then all of a sudden all these obstacles come up. Oh, sorry, I'm busy until next month. Oh, sorry, I'm really busy with school right now. Oh, I got a lot going on. Oh, I got this trip I'm going to take. Oh, I don't have much time right now, right? You see how these little obstacles that effectively anybody could use, right? Even if it's not even true, you could still kind of like put these little pebbles in place to make it harder for for somebody to line up a date with you. So if the girl is, rather than making it easy, rather than clearing her schedule, right? It's like I've shown you infield examples of girls that had a flight to catch the next morning, but they still came out on a date with me. And then I've had plenty of examples where the girl had to catch a flight in 2-3 days, but she used this, the same circumstance as an excuse rather than to make it easier for me. So the girls that come out on dates, even though they got a flight to catch tomorrow morning, they'll go, oh, this is our only chance. Oh, we got to go on a date now, right? Oh, let's do it. Let's go on the date. We're so spontaneous. Well, blah, blah, blah. That's how they position their circumstances when they like me and they want to make it easy for me. Versus when I come across girls that are disinterested and don't actually like me, so they, effectively they want to make it harder for me, then rather than getting the, wow, I'm leaving tomorrow, so we should totally do this. Instead, I get, well, I'm leaving tomorrow, or, oh, my flight's in a couple of days and I still got a lot of stuff to do, or I still have a lot of sightseeing I got to do, or, oh, I promised my friends tomorrow night I'll see them, or, oh, I don't know, my flight's in a couple of days, I want to kind of chill for the next couple of days, or I'm burnt out from this boat tour that I just did, or blah, 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 right? They're using the exact same circumstance, but the girl that likes me makes it easy for me and flips it in a positive light. Oh my God, I'm leaving tomorrow, so tonight's the night, let's go, right? Versus the girl that doesn't like me uses the same circumstance but goes, yeah, I'm leaving tomorrow, so I guess we just met each other at the wrong time, right? So I guess it just can't happen, or it wasn't meant to be. Does that make sense? So hopefully you see how I'm training you to position these girls differently in your mind. So rather than seeing every girl as like, all right, I'm on the defense, that girl's not going to like me as is, it's my job to prove myself. Rather, you see her as, all right, that's just a girl that doesn't like me. Next. All right, that's just a girl that kind of likes me, but not enough. Next. And then you approach the girl and she just lights up and she already likes you and she makes it easy. And then you start to understand what I'm saying. Then you start to shift your perspective and you go, oh, that's what Ephraim's talking about. That's the kind of girl that he's talking about, right? It's a girl who's clearing her schedule for me. Is a girl who's suggesting I take her phone number down. Is a girl who's suggesting days and times for a date, right? Who's going, yeah, I'm actually going to be free on Thursday. So, and I'm going, oh, sweet, I know this spot in the Mission. And she's going, yeah, that's, I don't live too far from the Mission, just a few bus stops away. I could totally hop on the, right? versus that same version of that same circumstance, but a girl who doesn't like me is going to go, oh, I am free on Thursday, but I got to wake up for work on Friday, so probably not then. Oh yeah, I do know about the mission, that bar, but it's like a couple bus stops away. I think I would want to do something closer, right? And she's going to make it harder and harder and harder for you. All right, that makes sense, right? Okay, continuing on. We already went over this part, but I said maybe she appreciated the approach enough to hand over her number, but that doesn't mean she's genuinely interested in you. All right, so that's a big thing to learn how to compartmentalize. So it's like, starting out, specifically for me too, starting out, I would think that every time I got a phone number, oh, this is going to be a date. This is going to be a girl that's going to love me. We're going to have this amazing love story. Every time I got a phone number, right? And I would start fantasizing about the date I'm going to take her on and, oh, I wonder what she's going to wear and all this stuff, right? And then I quickly realized that a lot of the numbers that I was getting never ended up even replying to me. So early on, there's plenty of things that we can work through together where I can teach you why that's potentially the case, right? What's likely to be causing that. But early on for me, I know what was causing it was a poorly executed approach, was a lot of fabricated confidence, and a general, what's the word when you're unequipped? A general incompetence. Yeah, I was generally incompetent about what I was doing, how I was structuring our conversation, when to ask for her number, when to suggest we go on a date, right? When to ask her out, all this stuff, when to end the conversation. So just buttoning up those loose ends and getting competent in those areas, the mechanics, ended up mitigating a lot of those flakes. But what was I saying here? Oh yeah, but I ran into that a lot where the girl wasn't genuinely interested in me. She just appreciated the act, right? She just appreciated the approach and the boldness and the confidence, okay? So my next paragraph, oh yeah, you boys are going to love this. Dude, we got a spammer in the chat. My goodness. This guy copied and pasted the same message 12 times. That's crazy. Hey, that's got to be good for outreach, though. Huh? Keep it going, man. So, next I put, that's what makes cold approach so powerful. Rather than sourcing from a very saturated dating pool, like dating apps, nightclubs, coworkers, and having to win your way onto her good side, instead, you're sourcing from an essentially infinite dating pool. All right, so I'll explain what I mean here. So if you're like most guys who use most methods, like, oh, I'm just gonna pop onto Tinder and do my best there and try to maximize my Tinder dating profile and my Bumble dating profile, or you're like the smaller subset of men who are at least confident enough to go out in the nighttime, and so you're going out to night venues, clubs, bars, you're hitting on girls at bachata nights and whatever you're doing, right? The little cocktail events that you're going to. If you're like most guys who use one of those two methods, or the third one, which I think is hilarious, but this seems to be very common, is trying to hit on your coworkers, right? Trying to find love through the workplace. If you're one of those guys that uses, this is most guys, right? They use one of these three methods. Probably 99% of guys are at least on a dating app, or going out to nightclubs, or hitting on their coworkers, or all three, right? So the reason why I said it's a limited dating pool, or a saturated dating pool, is because I just explained why. It's because every single guy is doing one of those three things, if not all three of those things. All right, so you're competing against all the guys that are on the dating app that are swiping right, blah blah blah, and sure, you can you can adjust for metrics, right? Oh, well, this guy's tall, blah blah blah, right? Or you're going to the same clubs and the same venues that all the other guys are also going to when they're horny and they're trying to shoot their shot and find love, whatever, or find a hookup at a bar. Or you're one of the guys that's hitting on your coworkers and trying to find love through the workplace. Then that means that you're competing against all the other guys that are doing that, right? Who are you not competing against? Well, you're not competing against guys like me who actually go after what they want in public in broad daylight, which is the very select few number of guys. Sure, there's plenty of them based on the world's population, but we're very few and far between, right? We're actually willing to just go out in public during the daytime where everybody can hear us and shoot our shot in that manner. Okay? So that's why I'm saying, so what am I getting at here? Is with cold approach, the reason why I say it's essentially an infinite dating pool is because how rare is this? Yeah, it's like this is so rare. I hear it from girls all the time. Nobody does this. Nobody ever approaches me in public. Oh my God, guys don't do this anymore. I wish guys did this more. So this is the status quo, right? Is not going over to girls and making your intentions known in public in broad daylight. So why moving on, all right? Because this kind of gets into the next paragraph. So when you get very effective at this skill, you get to filter out girls that aren't fully reciprocating your advances. And you get to filter in the girls that make it very easy for you. All right. So because you're working with a way larger dating pool, because most guys simply aren't doing this, then you can afford to just essentially swipe left in real life on the girls that are not reciprocating fully your advances. Yeah, so rather than going up to nightclubs and I hit on 3 girls tonight, wow, it's a world record, or shooting your shot on dating apps and praying to get a reply, rather than using ineffective methods in a very ineffective strategy like a dating app, rather than doing that, you're going over to girls in broad daylight in public, way larger dating pool because no guys are doing this. And because you get so many more profiles to vet, right? Because you get so many more options of conversations or potential conversations depending on whether or not you go up, then you also get so many more opportunities to go, is this girl actually into me or is she just kind of giving me the runaround, right? Does she actually want to pursue me as well or reciprocate romantic activities with me? Or is she kind of just being polite and saying, pat on the back, good job approaching me, but I'm not interested in you? Now compare this to the guys that are, let's say the guys that don't find much success with dating at all, and now they're just trying to pound their way into nightclubs and venues and bars and stuff. Well, I don't know about you and your experience, but in my experience, when I'm going out to bars and stuff, I get happy if I'm in a conversation with a couple of girls, and a lot of the times I'm not able to fully, what's the word? Not understand, but I guess identify whether or not the girl is genuinely interested in me. I'm just psyched to be in a venue with a somewhat decent looking girl, and I'm going, all right, nice. Hopefully she sticks with me for the rest of the night and I can bang her at the end of the night. That's kind of more or less the mentality if I'm going out to a nightclub, especially before cold approach. That's kind of what it was for me. It was like, all right, I just got to find one hot girl that likes me enough to keep talking to me and go smoke a cigarette outside with me, and maybe she'll come back with me. And that was my strategy back then, yeah? And so rather than like cold approach, just going up to a girl, this girl's not that interested in me, right? I'm just going to go up to the next one. Instead, I'm going, yeah, I guess I'll buy her a drink. I mean, I can't really tell if she likes me or not, or if she just wants a free drink, but I'll buy her a drink. All right, now I bought a couple of drinks. All right, now she's running off to the next venue with her friends unannounced, and I'm never going to see her again, yeah? Instead of that, you're taking this into your own hands and you're just presenting yourself in front of each girl and you're deciding, you're filtering, and you're going, all right, she's not interested next. She's not interested next. And that's how you start to reframe what rejection is, right? Because at first you see it as like, none of these girls like me. When will one like me? And then you put in enough reps, you start to notice patterns. You start to kind of see where you fall and how often girls tend to like you. And obviously that's going to change based on where you are, what time of the day it is, right? If it's Christmas time and, if it's the Christmas time of the year and everyone's jolly. But point being, at least you have more data to play with, and you can go, all right, rather than playing along with this girl, rather than taking her phone number down because she's giving it to me out of pity, instead of doing that and viewing all this stuff as rejection, instead I already know that if I approach enough girls, I'm going to find a date tonight. So I'm not going to worry about, I feel rejected. Why aren't these girls liking me? I'm going to view this as, no, I'm just the person going out and rejecting these girls, right? I'm going up. If she's not interested, move on, right? It's like, all right, next, swipe left, swipe left, swipe left. And then I find a girl that's genuinely interested in me. All right, now it's time to turn it on. Now it's time to set up the date. Now it's time to exchange contact details, et cetera, et cetera. Does that make sense? All right. All right. And then, the last thing I put is, the filtering is important because you no longer have to pretend to be someone else in order to land a date. And the filtering can be strict because you're sourcing from an infinite supply. All right. So I said in 2 sentences, basically what I said in that entire monologue there, right? So I put the filtering is important because you no longer have to pretend to be someone else in order to land a date. So if we're using the dating app example, you no longer have to maximize your profile, pretend to be this this whatever character you're trying to portray on Tinder that you think is going to entice the girls. You no longer have to pretend to be this smooth talking guy over text because you're looking up best opening lines to send the girl on a dating app, and you're using those lines even though you'd never actually say that, right? If we're using the nightclub or the bar example, you don't have to pretend to want to dance when the girl is leading you around like a puppet and you're hoping, oh, I hope I get to bang this girl by the end of the night, and she's leading you around and going, all right, let's go talk to my friends now. Okay, I'm going to go this way. Maybe wait for me. I'm going to go to the bathroom. Will you wait for me here? Right? Instead of playing all these games, pretending, like you can't tell that she's slighting you or disrespecting you in certain ways, but you're just going along because you're hoping to get lucky tonight. Instead of doing any of that shit, because you are the person in control, you no longer have to pretend to be anybody. Instead, you get to be your authentic self, present your authentic self in front of all of these girls, and then you get to filter for the ones that actually like you as is, right? Do you see the importance now? As is. Every time I'm going out to bars and nightclubs, I have to put on some sort of an act and try to be louder than I am and more social than I really am. And I have to pretend like I want to be out drinking a lot of alcohol. Not necessarily I have to do this, but this is what I do, right? I pretend like I want to be taking all these shots with all these frat guys I'm hanging out with, right? I pretend like this girl is actually, oh my God, this girl's gorgeous, even though I went on a date with far hotter girls, but she's the hottest girl in the venue right now, or at least the hottest girl that's talking to me, right? I already got rejected at a few other bars. I'm not feeling so confident right now. Instead of doing any of that shit and pretending and altering yourself to, molding yourself to what you think that girl is going to like in the moment so that you can get lucky, instead of doing any of that, you get to take this all into your own hands. You get to build yourself into the person that you actually want to be, and then you get to present that person in front of the girl as is. And some girls are going to like that as is. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of sourcing from an infinite supply. You're no longer tied to what archetype of girl is going to the bar that you're going to. Oh, you're going to a Latin bar? Now you're trying to style yourself to that, or you're going to this certain kind of a punk bar or an emo bar or whatever, now you got to style yourself to those type of girls, right? Rather than, because you're sourcing from an infinite supply now, and it's not determined by location because you could take the skill anywhere, right? It's not determined by time of day because it's fucking broad daylight, the sun is shining. Yeah, it's not determined by whether or not the girl swipes right back on you on the dating app, and instead it's determined by your effort. It's directly tied to the number of girls that you walk over to and approach, and it's directly tied to how serious you take improvement over time, right? Iteration, over time, getting better at this skill set. Those two factors, plus an infinite supply to practice on, leads to a far better dating life in my experience. And I'm a living, breathing example of what I'm talking about. All right. So yeah, and then the last thing I said, we already covered it, but the filtering gets to be strict because it's an infinite supply, right? So it's a lot harder to be able to use these filters if you're out at a certain bar, because firstly, you're limited to the number of girls at the bar, the type of girl that's at that bar, and the type of venue, and what's socially normal versus abnormal, and who's there, and how cliquey it is, and whether or not you're there alone, and all these factors, right? This all affects the supply, right? In that specific environment, in that specific venue. And so when you build this skill set to walk over whenever, wherever, then you just get to fly to the country that turns you on the most, right? The kind of girl that you like the best. You get to literally go to the source. I mean, how crazy is that, right? Yeah, you don't need to bring a whole crew with you. You don't have to all of a sudden, I need 2 or 3 friends to go out during the nighttime with. You could do it solo. I've done it solo, right? I got infield solo in different countries for you. So, yeah, I mean, as you can see, I really believe in this skill set. I've seen what it's done for my life. Once again, this live stream is dedicated to that community member that decided to make that post. What a great post it was. Thanks so much for being vulnerable and sharing your text threads, because that led to this banger of a live stream. Let's go. There's some topics I've covered on here that I've never talked about, so I really appreciated that layup that you gave me with the post you made, all right? Let's talk about, let's see the comments here. So Ish Mo's in the chat. What's going on, boys? Urban's in the chat. What's going on? Yeah, so Ish says it's purely a numbers game. Aditya corrects him and says it's not purely a numbers game. You have to be expressive, show personality. There's skill. If you shoot a bunch of basketball shots with shit form, you'll never make one. Yeah, so essentially, to correct what Ish was saying, it's not purely a numbers game. it's an aggressive numbers game plus an aggressive iteration game. Yeah, so not only are you going out, putting out tons of shots, but the goal is to be improving day over day. Yeah, each time you're walking over to a new girl, the goal is to have the mechanics of the approach at the very least be better than the last. Yeah, because you can't control the reaction. Yeah, you could approach one girl for the third time ever and it goes amazing, and then your 150th approach goes terrible. So it's not necessarily tied to the results. It's related, right? Correlation, not causation. But yeah, as long as you're iterating, that's the only metric you can track, right? You can't track how well the results are going because you're never going to get to a point where you never get rejected. You're never going to get to a point where all the girls love you, no matter how good you get at the skill. All right, so yeah, I like that point, boys. We got somebody says, good morning, brother. How are you? Good to see you, man. How are you? We got the troll saying, touch the screen for a Lamar Jackson edit. That's hilarious. That's so funny. Imagine if it actually worked, too. I just turned into Lamar Jackson. That'd be so funny. All right. Yeah, Ish says, fourth option, DMing random girls on Instagram. Yep, I should have included that. That's what I used to do as well. Used to find a bunch of girls whose profile picture I clicked on, and I went, yeah, I'd smash. And literally, that was my metric. I'd look at her, I'd go, she looks hot enough. I'd click follow, and then I'd send her the same DM template. It was Steph Curry shooting his shot, and it said, hey. That was the meme that I was sending. Sent that to, it had to have been 500 different girls. It was crazy. Got 0 dates out of that. How pathetic is that? Yeah, how pathetic is that? All right, anyways. Mo says, I got hit on by a coworker at my last job and got reported to HR. He says, she was a hot mom, but I learned my lesson. That's hilarious, bro. Yeah. Some guys swear by hitting on their coworkers. It's too funny. All right. Yeah. Learn this skill set. You never have to worry about it again. Now you get to go to work and intentionally ignore the girls that are making advances on you because you're like, I'm satisfied, dude. I already got a date lined up tonight, so I don't need to hit on my coworkers, right? That kind of mentality. All right. Badros says, I deleted Instagram and Snapchat a couple years ago. Been into cold approach for a while now. Dating apps, I get it. You let the algorithm decide for you, but what about IG? Is it truly necessary? I feel like you gave me some extra context I didn't need there, but to answer your question, no, I don't think it's necessary, but I think it's supplemental is the best way to phrase it. Definitely not necessary. There's plenty of guys who have a sick dating life and have no online presence, and they want it that way. They prefer it that way. Yeah, I'm starting to lean towards that as well, but my whole life is gearing towards online now, so that's never going to be the case, I imagine. But, I've had days where I think about that too. I'm like, dude, I have this skill set. I could just fly anywhere. I could delete all of my online, obviously I'm not talking about the channel, but like I can delete my Instagram and cut all ties to online society, and I don't have to be caught up in watching all of this content, and instead I can just make content. I can have a flip phone, right, that gets the job done with the phone calls, and I don't need to be glued to my screen anymore. I mean, some guys prefer that lifestyle, right? I mean, that's great that you have that option. So to answer your question, I know I'm going in a roundabout way. It's not necessary to have an Instagram, but it can only help you. So, and I guess it can't only help you. A solid Instagram can only help you. But if it's like a weird Instagram, you're better off just not having one at all. Yeah, so weird Instagram means a bunch of selfies or a bunch of mirror pics or a bunch of you flexing at the gym, a bunch of photos of random shit, dogs, cheese, your new sick couch that you bought, right? It's like the trees, you're just taking a photo of the trees and posting it. It's like, probably just don't have an Instagram if you're going to be doing that. But yeah, if you have somewhat of a social life and your friends aren't too insecure to be able to take photos. I remember I was in a group like that growing up where we all thought we were too cool for photos. So like none of us would ever capture the moment ever because we thought like, nah, we're not one of these Instagram losers, these pansies who are going to post photos and shit. But nowadays I've come around and I've gone, no, it's clearly a very useful online portfolio in a sense, right? Like a social portfolio. So I'm not very active on Instagram. I don't post much, but when I do, it's usually a pretty high quality photo or a collection of photos that I took in another country, for example. I've got photos of me on a boat when I'm in Panama. I've got photos of me in different places in Cyprus and at a nice little restaurant strip venue area, and photos of me in Poland next to the big Warsaw statue in the state's capital. So it's like high quality photos. I look good. And when girls come across that, they go, this makes sense, right? The same guy to take care of his online presence and look presentable and look attractive in his Instagram photos is the same kind of guy that would walk over to me in this bold manner in the daytime and line up a date with me. Does that make sense? Versus if like you got photos of like some weird hobby that you're doing. Yeah, I don't mean to call your hobby weird, but maybe you're just like, you're very obsessed with like an Overwatch type game and you're just posting clips about you with a headset on, spamming over. I don't know, if you're doing some shit like that, then she's probably going to ask for your Instagram, look at it and go, oh, I don't know if I want to go on a date with this nerd, right? So that's all I'm saying. And then another asterisk here. A lot of guys talk about, you need girls in your photos, pre-selection, this and that. I'm not here to argue whether or not that's true. I'm leaning more towards true. But just so you know, I have no girls in my photos, aside from like relatives if I got a photo of a family. Literally aside from that, I have no photos of like girls that I've been intimate with or even just out and about girls that I'm friends with and photos of them. I have none of those. It's for the most part, it's just me and some guy friends or me and my family. So just to break the myth that like, oh my God, you need to have hot girls in your Instagram photos. I've had all of my dates with no photos of chicks on my Instagram. So just so you know, that's not a prerequisite. So yeah, that's my answer there is I don't think it's necessary at all. But if you can cultivate a couple solid photos of yourself, then it can only help you, right? All right, Ish says, did plan to hit up this girl at my work who works in Pepsi. Quickly snapped out of it. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you build the skill set, you can use it as needed. So if it's the hottest girl ever, why not? But yeah, I mean, I personally, I don't have a job, so I thankfully I don't have to worry about this. But when I did, I pretty much made that a rule, right? Kind of like a non-written rule in my own head. Is like, I'm not going to get intimate with my coworkers. She'd have to be just outstandingly hot for me to want to risk like shaking up my career, shaking up whatever job situation I had at the moment, right? Yeah, I'll leave that to the guys who have no other options and they're like, oh my God, no one's replying to me on a dating app. I gotta hit on my coworkers now because this girl's forced to talk to me for 8 hours a day because we work in the same office, right? It's like I'm not trying to do that. So yeah. So what else we have? Yeah, Ish says, that's why I like to be direct. You get an infinite answer on whether the girl actually fucks with you or not. Yeah, there you go. He says mastering the fundamentals is key. I agree. And then Ish says, for real though, I'm so glad that you made a live stream on this topic. For someone like me who's somewhat new to female tendencies, this helps me identify on girls. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and also we can call it female tendencies, or you phrased it female nature. I was heavy into this topic when I was 18, 19, first came across Red Pill, and I was like, I was discovering discovering the psychology of the female brain, and I was learning about all this stuff, why they do what they do, why they use indirect phrasing, and I was real obsessed with that. I think having a deep dive into that at some point certainly could help you just to understand things better. I think we touch on it quite a bit, just overall across my channel as well, without a direct target on it. And I know some guys, their whole channel is about like, all right, this is the psychology of the female brain. This is how it differs from the male brain. This is what you have to hit these trigger points. But, once again, I started this off by saying we could phrase it female tendencies, but I mean, really it's just kind of comes down to human nature. If you think about it, it's like, even if you're setting something up with a guy, right? Pause. Hopefully you're not, but you know what I mean, right? You got your homie that you're trying to plan something with. All right, bro. Yeah, let's do this on the 4th of July. It's like if he's giving you answers like, yeah, we'll see, or yeah, I'll have to see if I have time, or yeah, I'll let you know, or just text me, or anything like that, right? If he's making it difficult, then dude probably doesn't want to hang out with you or doesn't want to invite you to whatever he's got going on, right? Versus you text that same friend and he goes, hell yeah, bro, I already got the fireworks, or yeah, dude, I'm ready. I got a couple cases of beers. I got some friends. We're actually planning on going to Russian River. You should join us, right? The completely different energies. So it's not even male, female at that point. It's just, you're talking to somebody that actually wants to talk to you versus somebody that actually doesn't. So in this case, one-to-one mapping over to cold approach, it's like you're talking to a girl and she's doing the same equivalent, right? She's going, yeah, I'm real busy these days. I got midterms coming up. Oh my God, I'm about to graduate. I'm on my last semester. I really got to focus, or something along those lines, right? Oh, I just started this new job, or oh, I work weekdays, whatever. Versus you're talking to a girl and she's more than happy to go on a date and set it up with you and all this. Then yeah, it's just yeah, I think it's just understanding social dynamics overall is a better way to phrase it, right? That's kind of what we're doing here. We're understanding social dynamics and then we're pairing it with physical action. Yeah. So, anyways, so yeah, boys, that's what I had to talk about during this live stream. So now we can talk about some announcements. I just dropped the paid school community earlier this morning. So we got one member. Yeah, shout out to you. You know who you are. We got one member so far, which I'm psyched about. Yeah, that exceeded my expectations already. And so because it's just one member right now, we're working around each other's schedule to schedule our first group coaching call. The group being me and him until more people join. So right now we're aiming for this upcoming Sunday morning. He's UK time zone. I'm US time zone. So he's 8 hours ahead of me. So we're looking to have our first live group coaching call. Already got the meeting link sent out. Added it to the community calendar. So yeah, it's great. We're already DMing back and forth quite a bit, and he's exactly the type of person that I'd want in the group because right off the bat he's seeking feedback. Right off the bat he's asking questions. Right, we want people that are active, that are action takers, that are ready to take their dating life by the horns. Yeah, that are ready to put forth some effort. And so he's already just being real with me over DMs, asking me and talking to me about where he's at, what he's working on. Asking me why he feels as though he's in a rut is something that we were most recently talking about. And so, yeah, it's really cool being able to because before having this community, it's like every time I got a DM, I was kind of like, all right, not only am I giving out free content, free date breakdowns, free infields, free community, but now also they're trying to get direct access to me for free. So it's nice because now that somebody is actually putting their money where their intentions are, I can just freely reply and not have to worry about am I adding too much value here for getting nothing in return. Now it's just oh no, he's paid his dues, it's time to get to work. So yeah, I'm really enjoying just being able to pour into this guy, pause and share my thoughts and perspectives with him. Other things, so I already got 3 pieces of exclusive content posted, and so that'll be members only, ongoing for the rest of the date breakdowns that I create, and I'll be doing members only videos as well. We've got, like I said, the first coaching call scheduled, so I'll do some. I decided to name it "Find the Fun." So that's where we'll be working on banter and flirting, improv. Essentially, we're just going to be improvising also on the call and role playing. And then I've decided that I'll have a couple of challenges as well. So as we get more members, I'll ramp this up a bit. But I already created kind of different. If you've ever used Slack, kind of different channels. One of them I called Rejection Reels. So it'll be a channel where guys can just talk about it, kind of making fun of the most difficult or the most painful part of this process, right? Which is guys are so scared of getting rejected. So now we've got a thread dedicated to just rejections where you can talk about, oh my God, I got blown out so bad today, or oh my God, I tripped while I was talking to this girl and it went so poorly and this and that, or she walked straight past me and didn't even look at me. And then we can all comment and encourage each other and kind of shine a positive light on that process and go, well, let's talk about what you learned or what do you plan on doing differently, or just laugh at it sometimes, just laugh at the fact that we're all human, we all make blunders. So yeah, that's Rejection Reels. And then I've got Wins and Breakthroughs. So that channel will be guys, a channel dedicated to guys posting their wins, whether it be, first date through cold approach, or oh my God, first time I actually went the distance on a date, or yeah, first phone number I got, or oh my God, I did so well today, went out 3 approaches, three dates lined up, that kind of stuff, where we can post our achievements. And then the Rejection Reels, we can post what we would classify as our failures. And then obviously the general discussion is where the meat is going to be, where we'll be making, ideally members will be posting as frequently as possible. I know I'll be making daily posts there, and we can grow together. I'm excited for it. This is day 1, baby. What is it? June 27th is the launch of the school community. The launch. Let's go. Ish says, the community could help me take my dating life to the moon. Hey, accepting applications. Yeah, it's open when you're ready. So anyways, boys, that's my sales pitch for the day. I hope you appreciated the live stream. I hope this was educational, insightful, inspirational, and I hope it helps you in your journey and helps you get to where you're trying to get to as far as dating. So anyways, boys, I appreciate you as always. I'll talk to you soon,